Thanks to Uncle Allan Murray. Appreciate his presence today and his welcome. My job now is also to welcome you and to thank you very much for making the journey and for being here today. Many have travelled far from Gallawinku up off the top of Northern Territory, from Central Desert, from Mareeba and Atherton in North Queensland, from Tassie, down in Hobart. So we have people from all across, and also from over in WA, and our sister federation, Cooperatives WA, is here today as well. So it's a fantastic, I know how much of an effort it is to come, and just want to acknowledge that. There's also amazing diversity in the room. You'll discover that over the next 2 days. Many different types of enterprises, of co-ops, doing all sorts of different things. And we see that as a real strength. That's really, you can learn from co-ops working in many different ways, in many different communities, and doing many different things. And we see that as a real strength. But there's also groups. You'll see tomorrow we have workshops in sectors, in agriculture, in food, in workers, in arts. And you can also come together in your industries as well. I want to just acknowledge some of the guests, and they're going to speak soon. It's Dr. Patricia Jenkins from the United Nations Association, Councillor Jess Miller from the City of Sydney Council, Councillor Sylvie Elsmore, also registered. I haven't seen Sylvie yet, but hopefully she'll be here. And of course, the Assistant Minister for Competition, Charities and Treasury, Dr. Andrew Leigh MP, thank you very much for coming as well. And Peter Wells, my opposite number in WA, from Co-ops WA. Also acknowledge directors of the Federation that are in the room. Unfortunately, our chair was unable to make it, Richard O'Leary, but our deputy chair's here, Peter Calabria, also Marissa Costello, Rebel Black, Nick Sable, and the indomitable Peter Tregilgas as well, who is here. So thank you. Thank you to those. I want to thank the sponsors quickly. Coverforce, they're not here today. They're an insurance broker. You'll see them tomorrow. Yenda Producers, you've hopefully all got some snazzy Yenda headwear. CoPower is here, the cooperative energy retailer. Please reach out to them. Invest in Farming is here, a new way to invest in agriculture in a cooperative way. We've also had some sponsorship from Maple Street Food Co-op up in Maleny in Queensland, and you've also all just been given a book by Running Waters from the Central Desert as well, so we appreciate that. And you can buy more books from them over on the back table. This year it's an International Year of Co-operatives. It's the second one. We had one in 2012, and the UN has seen fit to recognise us again, and we're having this a second international year this year. And that's why we wanted to bring this together. We wanted to kick off the International Year on the East Coast and this is the biggest gathering we're going to have as a sector, and we want you to go out from here and go and celebrate that International Year at your co-op, in your community. And so see it as a start, hopefully a start of something. It's another great moment in the history of cooperatives on this continent and across the world. We have our ups and downs, we have our great successes, we have our challenges, but this is just another moment. We're here. We've been going for 150 years, and we're going to keep going. There's lots of new co-ops, lots of exciting new co-ops, lots of great, wonderful older co-ops that you'll find here. Since 2012, we've really regrown the Federation. We now have 207 members, so 204 of those are co-ops and a couple of other very supportive organisations who work in the sector anyway. So we're 207 members strong, which is really, a great thing. We've now got 3 staff. That's very exciting for us. But we're here to support you. Just exist to support co-op enterprise. Co-ops, we're the only global movement of enterprise. We're democratic. We've got principles, how we operate. Our members must be actively supporting the co-op to remain a member, and we support and assist each other across this country and across the world. That's written into our principles and part of how we operate. We're the best way for people to get together and organise and do business and get things done. We are the best model, and that hasn't changed. I hope you'll have a great 2 days. We'll talk about some of the myths about co-ops, you know, that we're not flexible, that we're complex, that we take too long to make decisions. That's all basically rubbish. We'll talk about capital, you know, capital raising's hard. That's mostly rubbish. There's some accounting standards we'd like to change, but other than that, we can raise capital as well. There is not enough education about co-ops. And that's probably our biggest challenge. We've been talking to the Minister's office about that in recent times, and you know, we really need the professionals, the community government to understand us better, and that's part of what we work for. But I think I've realised in recent times that the only way we're going to get that is for there to be more co-ops. There are just not enough co-ops. If we, instead of 1,500 or so across Australia, we had 15,000, we would have a lot better understanding. So please, out of today, go out and set up another co-op and grow the family, and then we will get the recognition across the community, I believe. Discover the great new co-ops around that are here today. Check out the wonderful old ones. There's, I think, a 125-year-old co-op here. Dan from Cabarga is probably the oldest one. But several just had their 100th birthdays or are having their 100th birthday this year. Please learn, please share and network. You can certainly learn from each other. We know that your members are stronger together, are better together, and we know that co-ops are better together as well. We're looking for some legacy out of this year. We're looking to achieve things and to move our sector forward, and that's part of the purpose for today. So thanks very much. Welcome, and I'm now going to introduce our opening speakers. So thanks again for coming. Actually, we've got the video. Can we play the video, Emma? So this is a video from Ariel Guarco, who's the global president.
De las organizaciones miembro de la Alianza Cooperativa Internacional en Australia. Queridos colegas y amigos cooperativistas de ese país que históricamente ha demostrado un fuerte compromiso en la difusión y expansión de nuestro modelo, no solo en su región, sino en todo el mundo. Como saben, las Naciones Unidas han declarado a este 2025 como Año Internacional de las Cooperativas. Y esto no es solo un motivo de orgullo, sino una excelente oportunidad para potenciar nuestro mensaje y nuestras acciones a escala planetaria. Desde cada país y cada región podemos consolidar la integración social, económica e institucional para seguir demostrando cómo y por qué somos la mayor red global de empresas guiadas por valores y principios orientados al bien común. Tenemos claro que las cooperativas construyen hace 2 siglos un mundo mejor. Esto es, un mundo con trabajo decente, equidad de género, cuidado de los ecosistemas, un mundo que crece y se desarrolla sin dejar a nadie afuera y sin dejar a nadie atrás. El hecho de que esto sea reconocido por los gobiernos nos da la oportunidad de aumentar la incidencia y de profundizar nuestro arraigo en cada territorio. Es por eso, queridos amigos y colegas de Australia, que los invito a seguir poniendo en acción nuestros principios y a aprovechar este 2025 para construir un mundo con más cooperativismo. Contamos en la Alianza Cooperativa Internacional con el invalorable aporte de cada miembro en cada país para seguir siendo protagonistas de este momento histórico. Es por eso que quiero agradecerles y felicitarlos por su labor en su país y más allá de las fronteras, e invitar fraternalmente a todos los cooperativistas australianos a construir juntos un mundo más justo, más sostenible y en paz. ¡Feliz Año Internacional de las Cooperativas!
Okay. Our next speaker is Dr. Patricia Jenkins. If you could come up, Patricia. She's the president of the United Nations Association of Australia in New South Wales, and she's going to make say a few words following on from Ariel.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honoured to be here with you today, and I see it as a privilege to be with people that put people before profit and to share this timely celebration of UN's 2025 International Year of Co-operatives, which the UN General Assembly has declared, and this is very special, cooperatives build a better world. In today's world, one of uncertainty, this could well be considered most significant, as history has proved our world is facing unprecedented challenges. On a positive though, history has further proved cooperatives have the unique capacity and enormous potential to make a real difference and drive positive change and improve lives. This was supported by Leigh, Under-Secretary of the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs, when she said, "The second International Year of Cooperatives will be an opportunity to mobilise all stakeholders to support and expand cooperatives everywhere," reinforcing what we just saw, strengthening their contribution for a better world. As Sam mentioned to us, the first International Year of Co-op was held in 2012. The theme was to encourage the growth and establishment of cooperatives all over the world. In highlighting positive growth since then, the UN, as we heard, is proclaiming this year and recognising it in various forms, promote the fullest possible participation in the economic and social development of all people, including women, young people, older people, people with disabilities, and Indigenous people, whose inclusion strengthens economic and social developments and contributes to the eradication of poverty and hunger. In fact, the United Nations General Assembly official logo for the 2025 International Year symbolises unity and global collaboration, with the design featuring interconnected figures around the globe representing people working together to create a better world. Subsequently, key objectives for the 2025 International Year include to raise public awareness of cooperatives, promote their growth and development, advocate for supportive frameworks, and inspire leadership and youth engagement in the cooperative movement. Furthermore, there will be a focus in the next few days on not only cooperatives supporting productive employment and generating sustainable economic growth, but also as a driver for social inclusion. In this regard, discussion could well be centred on achieving the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, which were unanimously adopted by the UN's 193 member states in 2015 and are the blueprint for a more resilient and prosperous world and a roadmap out of current crisis, including ending poverty and protecting the planet by 2030. Of concern, however, and as reported at the United Nations Summit of the Future held in last September, current progress to achieve the goals is insufficient and implementation lags behind rhetoric. However, the International Year of Cooperatives 2025 theme reinforces the ongoing global impact of cooperatives, positioning them, including all of you, to help achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In support, Leigh has said, the innovative contribution of cooperatives for sustaining development will be crucial for accelerating progress in achieving the SDGs as we approach 2030. Looking ahead, I think Gilbert H. Lona, Director General of the International Labour Organisation, summed it up well in a sentence when he said, "Cooperatives provide a path that place people at the heart of progress." Cooperatives, in being people-centred enterprise, empower communities by providing equitable opportunities for equal and social development and reinforce that real change invariably starts from the grassroots level, from where it can ripple out by newfound measures of hope and action, confidence and freedom, and very dear to my heart, in the wonderful spirit of humanitarian mateship and building a more democratic, fairer, diverse and inclusive world with shared prosperity, shared values and a shared thriving planet, while leaving no one behind and improving life chances for future generations. I wish each and every one of you success over the next few days as you showcase and further develop the unique power of cooperatives to contribute to building a better world for the common good. And after all, in the end, it's only good that really matters. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Patricia. Our next speaker is Councillor Jess Miller, representing the Lord Mayor, Clover Moore. I'll ask Jess to come up. She's been a Deputy Lord Mayor before, but please welcome Councillor Jess Miller to the stage.
I was so keen. I'm finally here. Good morning, everybody. As Sam mentions, my name is Jess. I'm here to represent the Lord Mayor, Clover Moore, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it this morning and sends her apologies. I'd like to acknowledge our other guests, the Federal Minister, Dr. Andrew Leigh, the Chair of the COP, Richard O'Leary, who's not here, but obviously Sam. It seems like you're doing the heavy lifting on his behalf today, and my good friend, Dr. Patricia Jenkins. So I guess 2025 is already shaping up to be quite a number of things. I think when you turn on the TV and you see an MMA fighter leading diplomatic relations with the leader of the free world, contextually, it being the year of the co-ops is actually probably one of the most optimistic things that 2025 will be. And so it's in that spirit of optimism that the City of Sydney is, again, really proud to be able to support the cooperative movement as part of a knowledge and sponsorship grant. But it doesn't really stop there. We're often kind of told at the city to stay in our lane and, look after rubbish roads and rates and all that kind of thing. But I think it stands to reason, given that most of the wheeling and dealing and transactions that happen in the country happen within this sort of 26 square kilometre patch. And so it makes sense that we're a part of this conversation and are able to influence part of this conversation. And that's not because we, it's a nice thing to do, but it's actually a reflection of where our community's at. I think we're really fortunate in the city that we have a community of people who fundamentally care in fairness. There are obviously people who are extremely wealthy, but also there are people who don't have a lot. And so we kind of have to straddle those two worlds often with a lot of compassion and imagination. But it's really our responsibility, I think, to be able to listen and reflect those values and aspirations in what we put our resources into. And that's basically all the good stuff that you guys are doing. So over the last few years, we've put some resources into supporting First Nations cooperative businesses, the Leadership Network, which is all about really building capacity. I think, as Sam said, you guys are in an unenviable position in that you kind of have to understand the rules of economics in order to fundamentally break them. So not only are you have to master capitalism, but then you also have to use this incredible amount of creativity, emotional intelligence, and just probably badass organisational skills to actually be able to figure out how to work it in a better way. And that's really, really admirable. We've also supported the Cooperative Federation through events like this and the Social Enterprise Council of New South Wales and the ACT. Excitingly, last year our council unanimously voted to support the establishment of an affordable housing cooperative for trans women, and that involved the sale of 7 residential buildings in Darlinghurst to a community housing organisation, Common Equity, at a 70% discount. And so this is kind of, I don't know if there's like a formal way of explaining this, but what we often like to do is to look at the resources that we hold as a public custodian and say, is there a better way that we could be managing this? And I think part of us identifying things like former depots, like the Gibbon Street depot and others, and saying, well, maybe this could be housing, and can we give this to a community housing provider to not just provide affordable housing for a little bit, but really provide it in perpetuity. I think that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of that the city's been able to actually do in the last 10, 20 years. There's lots of different types of co-ops, but I guess what, and I was a member of Alfalfa House, and I just really wish it would come back. And I think we need to find a new spot for it, because I think Sam's right. People don't really understand what these things are unless they're a part of it. And we don't all learn by hearing words. We often learn by doing and experiencing and going to the shop. And so I think it stands to reason that the more of these and the more diverse offerings there are of how these different things work, the greater the understanding that we'll all have. And then it becomes something that people consider when they go to start a new business or start a new club. It just seems like a better and smarter alternative. So I guess I'd also just like to acknowledge my very good friend and former Deputy Lord Mayor Jess Scully. She really led the conversation at the City of Sydney about community wealth building. She flew the flag for co-ops. You're so lucky that you'll get to hang out with her later this afternoon. But one of her ongoing and enduring legacies is that the city will be actually releasing the results of the community wealth building discussion paper, I'm told, imminently or in the coming months. And I think that's really interesting because what it does is it formalises in policy what can often feel like lofty aspirations, but it actually says this is what it is, this is what we're doing, this is what we're putting money behind, and takes what often feel like big ideas and grounds them in the day-to-day reality and experience of people. So I'm really excited to see what that is, and no doubt you will hear from us because your names, organisations will probably be stamped all over it, and hopefully it gives you a really good opportunity to do more, to do better, and do it in a more seamless and practical way. So thank you. Have a really great afternoon. I have to go back and talk about planning. Which is probably the least cooperative thing there is. But so have a great day, and I look forward to getting all the goss on what actually happened. So thanks for having me.
City of Sydney have been great supporters and have really got they're looking to help co-ops and to build co-ops in their area, and we really appreciate that. The final speaker for the first session is the Honourable Dr. Andrew Leigh, MP. He's the Assistant Minister for Competition, Charities and Treasury in the federal government. There may be an election on soon, I believe, so he may refer to that. But he's a lawyer. He's also been a professor of economics. He's got a PhD from Harvard, and he's also run a 2 minutes 42 marathon. Is that still the best figure? Yes. Yes. And if you've got any idea about marathons, and I don't, but I know that 2 minutes 42 is not something I will ever achieve. But please welcome 2 hours 42, did I say? Yeah. 2 days I may not achieve. But please welcome Dr. Leigh to the stage for the keynote address.
hours, minutes, days. What's a few time series between friends? Thank you very much for having me today. And thank you, Sam, for a very generous introduction. Australians don't sit back and wait for problems to solve themselves. We step up, we work together, and we get things done. Cooperation is part of who we are. It's mateship in action, self-reliance at scale, and fairness in practice. Whether it's farmers protecting fair prices, workers building industry super funds, or communities ensuring access to affordable housing, cooperatives have long been the quiet achievers of our economy, reshaping markets and putting fairness at the centre of everyday life. That's why I'm excited today to speak at the Co-op Assembly 2025 to talk about this important topic. Here in the Nala Badu building, I acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today. As Uncle Wally did, I pay respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. Like Australia's cooperatives, this gallery has become more diverse over time, not only expanding its collection of Indigenous art, but also building its collection of international art. My mother, Barbara Leigh, who's written a couple of books on textiles in Southeast Asia, reminded me that a dedicated space for Asian art only opened in 1988, flourishing under Edmund Capon and Jacqueline Menzies, and expanding into this beautiful new building. That evolution wasn't accidental. It was built through collaboration by people who believed in the value of cultural diversity, who pooled resources, and who created something greater than the sum of the parts. That same spirit of cooperation underpins the cooperative movement. Just as this gallery has grown through collective effort, cooperatives too show us what's possible when people come together with a common purpose. This year's theme of the UN International Year of Co-operatives is Cooperatives Build a Better World. It's not just an ideal, it's a fact. Cooperatives have demonstrated their ability to enhance economic fairness, resilience and community empowerment, particularly in sectors such as agriculture, finance and energy. Globally, cooperatives have helped shape industries and foster economic inclusion, particularly in regions where traditional business models have failed to serve local communities. For me, this isn't an abstract concept, it's personal. During the Great Depression, my grandfather Keith Leigh and his friend Lindsay Brio saw farmers in their community struggling to afford basic goods. So they founded the Hobson Bay Co-op, giving locals the ability to pool their buying power and secure fair prices. It was a simple idea, but a profound one, that by working together, families could build a more secure, more just economic future. And that's what the cooperative movement has always been about. People banding together, not just to get by, but to take control of their future. And it's not just history. Cooperatives are addressing today's biggest challenges, from clean energy to economic inclusion. And that's why today I want to talk about how cooperatives have shaped Australia and why they're more relevant than ever to our mission to build a better world. The spirit of cooperatives has a long tradition. For millennia, First Nations communities have engaged in collective decision-making, shared stewardship of the land, and sustainable resource management. Examples such as the Yolnu system of governance and the Noongar land management traditions reflect principles central to the cooperative movement. The modern cooperative movement was born in 19th century Britain, a time of immense industrial change. The Industrial Revolution created great wealth, but also brought hardship, low wages, soaring food prices, and deep economic uncertainty. The economic system was expanding, but it wasn't inclusive. New ideas emerged to rebalance the scales. Robert Owen, a Welsh social reformer, envisaged villages of cooperation, self-sustaining communities built on shared ownership. His model didn't take hold, but his ideas inspired others. John Stuart Mill saw cooperatives as a vital counterbalance to concentrated capital ownership, offering workers a stake in the economy and greater economic security. The Rochdale Society of Equitable Pioneers took these ideas and made them real. In 1844, 28 artisans and tradespeople, among them weavers, cobblers and cabinet makers, pooled their resources to open the world's first modern cooperative store in northern England. They didn't wait for change, they created it. Their principles, voluntary and open membership, democratic control, economic participation, education, cooperation among cooperatives, and community concern, still define cooperatives today. When the cooperative governance principles and practices arrived in Australia, they took on a distinctly Aussie character, shaped by the challenges and opportunities of a new and developing nation. Early Australian settlers faced their own economic hardships: long distances, scarce resources, and markets dominated by powerful interests. The same principles that drove the Rochdale pioneers helped early Australians build essential services, ensure food security, and strengthen communities. One of the most defining elements came in 1881, when a group of dairy farmers in New South Wales found themselves struggling against unfair market conditions. They established the South Coast and West Camden Cooperative Company, ensuring that dairy farmers, not external corporations, determined their own production, pricing and distribution. It wasn't just about securing better milk prices. It was about keeping wealth within local communities and proving that cooperation could be a powerful force for economic self-determination. The model they created would later be replicated across Australian agriculture and the broader economy, proving that cooperatives weren't just about getting by, they are about building thriving industries and communities. At every major turning point in Australia's economic history, cooperatives have been there, empowering communities and ensuring economic progress was shared. From the agricultural booms of the post-war era to the financial shifts that shaped modern banking, and the rise of education as a cornerstone of the knowledge economy, cooperatives have consistently stepped in to provide people-powered solutions. They've not just responded to economic challenges, they've shaped the very structure of Australia's modern economy. In the decades following World War II, Australia's agricultural industry experienced massive expansion. Demand for our produce soared and farmers found themselves at a crossroads. Either remain vulnerable to market fluctuations and corporate interests or reorganise to secure their own future. Take Murray Goulburn, founded in 1950. At a time when dairy farmers were at the mercy of big processors, they banded together to form a cooperative that ensured they controlled milk production and pricing. For decades, it became a leader in Australia's dairy industry, proving farmers could be more than just suppliers, they could be decision makers. Similarly, CBH Group, established in Western Australia, has allowed grain growers to take ownership of storage, transport and exports, ensuring profits stay with the farmers. Those cooperatives played a defining role in shaping Australia's agricultural economy, ensuring it remained not just competitive but fair. They helped transform Australian agriculture into a global powerhouse while keeping decision-making in the hands of those who work the land. As Australia urbanised in the late half of the 20th century, the financial sector shifted its focus towards cities. Banks, then driven solely by profit motives, began withdrawing from regional areas, leaving rural Australians without access to essential financial services. Cooperatives once again stepped in, ensuring communities weren't left behind. Bendigo and Adelaide Bank started as a cooperative building society, offering home loans to Australians who'd been overlooked by the major banks. As financial exclusion grew, it expanded its reach, reinvesting in regional economies, funding local businesses and keeping money flowing within communities. Today, Bendigo stands as one of Australia's most trusted financial institutions, demonstrating that finance can be both ethical and economically viable. As Australia transitioned towards a knowledge-based economy, further education became an essential pathway for economic mobility. But access to education wasn't always equitable, particularly when it came to the cost of study materials. In 1958, a group of university students took matters into their own hand, forming the Co-op bookshop to make textbooks more affordable. What started as a small initiative soon grew into Australia's largest member-owned retailer, ensuring generations of students could access the resources they needed to succeed. Many of us were disappointed when the Co-op bookshop closed its doors in 2020, falling victim to the forces that have shuttered countless other bookstores. But in its heyday, it was Australia's second largest bookseller, a particular boon to struggling students like myself. And while we're on the topic of equity and education, a shout out to the New South Wales Teachers Federation, who are hosting the conference tomorrow. Cooperatives continue to play a critical role in tackling some of the biggest economic challenges today. Hepburn Wind, Australia's first community-owned wind farm, generates clean energy while keeping profits within the local community. Yakandanda Community Energy Co-op is working to make the Victorian town of Yakandanda 100% renewable, proving that local communities can take climate action into their own hands. Cooperatives are also creating jobs and driving financial inclusion. Red Gum Cleaning Co-op, a worker-owned cooperative, provides secure employment in Melbourne, proving that ethical business models can empower all types of workers. Earthworker Energy Co-op, based in Victoria, is manufacturing renewable energy products while providing stable, well-paid jobs for workers in transition from fossil fuel industries. Affordable housing remains one of Australia's great economic challenges, and housing co-ops are stepping up where the market has failed. Common Equity New South Wales provides an alternative housing model, supporting affordability and stability for low-income Australians. Across Australia, co-ops continue to be a powerful engine for social and economic progress, responding to new economic challenges with the age-old principles developed almost 2 centuries ago. If history teaches us anything, it's that when Australians pull together, we can achieve great things. Co-ops aren't just a legacy from the past, they're a model for the future. A future where success is shared, where communities shape their own destinies, and where fairness isn't just a principle, but a practice. The UN International Year of Co-ops is a reminder that we have choices about the kind of economy we build. We can create one that delivers opportunity for all. Across Australia and around the world, cooperatives are already making that vision a reality. So let's take inspiration from those who came before us. By supporting the growth of co-ops, by widening their reach, by ensuring they remain a part of our national and global story for generations to come. When we cooperate, we don't just build better businesses, we create stronger communities, widen opportunities, and ensure fairness remains at the heart of the economy. A thriving co-op sector isn't just an economic choice, it's a vision for a more just and sustainable future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Minister, and it's great to have your understanding and your voice inside the federal government, and we'll keep talking to you. The final thing that we're going to do in this first session is just to talk about our youth focus for this assembly, and one of our directors, Peter, are you here? Yes, please come up and just tell everyone about the Youth Ambassador program that we've got for the next 2 days.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Minister, and welcome everybody. Thank you. It's going to be a marvellous couple of days. My name is Peter Tregilgas. I'm a board member for the Co-op Federation and have been for, I think this is my 3rd term, isn't it? Maybe it's time for me to go. But I'm also a board member for the Mercury Cooperative. But I've played a role in this conference, which is that of a curatorial one, trying to identify some key speakers, both for today and for tomorrow, and hopefully to bring a program that's together that is interesting, unique, diverse, and a great challenge, I think, for our future. But important to that in this International Year, when we talk about can we build cooperatives, build a better world, it's also can we build a better world, and we'll be discussing that in the context of the debate that comes in a couple of sessions. So one of the key cooperative challenges is not just it's today and tomorrow, the scenario of the future. And there's no better way than that we can do that in terms of looking at our succession and the organisations that are with us, the cooperatives, and how we can build that through youth and through the people that actually work for cooperatives. So one of the things that we did in terms of developing this idea was to ask of cooperatives to nominate somebody and bring them forward to be part of what we call a youth ambassador program. So we've identified 4 people of interest. You'll be appreciate that all 4 are women at this point, but this is only the commencement of, I trust, a youth program and a youth project that the Federation will engage with over the next period of time. But I think one of the first points that we need to do is also not only introduce myself, but also if I could ask Carolyn Lambert to stand. Carolyn is the admin for the Co-op Federation. She's one of the points of contact for the youth program, along with myself. And I'd have to say that if you add the 2 of our ages together, I think we still only make about half the ages for the young people that I'm about to introduce. And to that end, I would like to introduce 4 young women who are representing their organisations. Their task is not onerous. Their task is simply to be here over these next 2 days, listen, talk, and I want you to be able to talk to them. That's why we're introducing them, and that's why. And if they talk to you about what is the challenges of your organisations, because the very last session that we run tomorrow at the Teachers Federation will be about them. It's about what their perspective is and where that what they've thought of this exercise over these 2 days, so that we can hear what may be the future, and that maybe we can take that back to our own organisations. So to that end, first up, I'd just simply ask you to hold your applause to the end. So if I could ask the youth ambassadors to stay standing, and then we'll bring that together at the end. Anna Langford from the Earth Workers Co-op. Claudia Hodge from Community Power Agency Co-op. Catherine Stone from Tranby Aboriginal Cooperative. And Tamara Bartram from Yenda Producers Cooperative. Please join with me. Let's give them a hand. Thank you, everybody. We're not putting nameplates around them. You notice that it doesn't say Youth Ambassador. So please, but what's important here is please engage, enjoy the time you have, but that's the scenario. Let's look at some challenge. Let's look at the future as we look at how cooperatives make a better Australia. Thank you.